Well, welcome to Minnesota, everyone. I am thrilled that Farm Aid is celebrating your 40th anniversary in our state. From Minnesota's Farm Fest to the Minnesota State Fair and now Farm Aid, we are a state, and it's a pretty good state, but we're our state where the women are strong, the men are good looking, and all the musicians and farmers are above average. I love this event. I love Farm Aid. I love how these national and local stars have come together to stand up for rural America because we need it right now. I am also glad that labor leaders and the U of M reached that tentative agreement on their negotiations. We all made a lot of calls. I think I was speaking to the Teamsters and the U late into the night. I know the governor was involved as well. That allowed Farm Aid to move forward. The farm movement and the labor movement have always been intertwined. As someone who wrote the book called Antitrust, it was on the New York Times bestseller list for like 10 days, got pushed off by Oprah or someone like that. But I made the historical case about how the Granger movement, which is a bit of the precursor to the Farmers Union, and the union movement both came up in the Midwest, and both came up around the same time to take on big power and to make sure that those that ran small farms or workers had the power to be able to have the kind of life that they deserved, and that we showed the dignity of work and respect for them. As the lead Democrat on the Senate Ag Committee, I'm working hard in Washington to do all I can to have the backs of our rural communities. You know, Farm Aid was born out of a farm crisis of the 1980s, a painful time, a time in which many farmers struggled and far too many farmers lost their farms entirely. By the way, for me, what I remember is Paul Wellstone at that time in his green bus, standing up for our farmers as a college professor before he was even in the Senate, going around and organizing farmers. Many of the challenges that our family farms faced during the 80s are sadly reemerging now. USDA released an updated farm income forecast report recently. It shows that the margins for our crop farmers especially are tightening due to what they're getting, lower prices, higher input costs, especially hits our small farmers. When this kind of stuff happens, a lot of times the big guys can survive it, but the small ones are roadkill. Here in Minnesota, the U of M's Farmer Lender Mediation Program, and that deals with families, farm families who are in financial bad straits, because of what's going on around them that they have no control over. And nearly 1,300 mediation notices were issued by the end of June, more than 50% higher than at this point in recent years. That's why it's more important than ever to strengthen the farm safety net for all producers, including by building new markets at home and abroad. So we must stand with our small farmers and stand against bad policies that are hurting rural America, like tariffs and the uncertainty of this administration, Medicaid cuts, rural hospital closures, SNAP cuts. It's a total gut punch. Unfortunately, the Trump administration chose to prioritize partisan legislation earlier this year instead of working across the aisle on a bipartisan farm bill. That budget bill, passed this summer, not only impacts nutrition assistance for 42 million Americans, with something like $180 billion in cuts, including 16 million children, 8 million seniors, 4 million people with disabilities, but it also frays the coalition that made the previous bipartisan farm bills possible. Congress must address the harmful cuts to nutrition in any discussion of a comprehensive farm bill. My first priority is to make sure that we're doing what we can to help people in rural America and rural Minnesota. That means small farmers and ranchers. I've championed legislation to make crop insurance more affordable, especially for young and beginning farmers. But let's be honest, there are farmers who don't get the support they need from the safety net we have now. Small farmers, specialty crop and organic growers, diversified operations are all too often left behind, and we know native farmers and farmers of color have often been left behind. I'm fighting to change that. All farmers should receive the support they need from USDA during tough times. We also need a farm bill that addresses the need for reliable access to credit. I've introduced bipartisan legislation to improve farm loan programs. If a producer has trouble making ends meet, My bill gives USDA new authority to refinance distressed loans from commercial lenders. This is especially important for beginning farmers, given that there's so much economic uncertainty. I also want to expand conservation programs. Cost share through EQIP or payments from CRP help farmers build soil health through no-till or cover crops and adopt other conservation practices to manage risk and inputs amidst tight margins. For years, I've worked to improve these programs and look forward to doing so in the next Farm Bill. This also means investing in specialty crops, or as I call them, the food we actually eat, and organic ag. These farmers all too often get the short end of the stick, but we need these farmers to succeed. They deserve equal treatment to other commodities. This is good for farmers and good for our families who want their products. I'm also a strong supporter of ag research. Earlier this summer, I secured $1 million in our annual funding bill to strengthen research at the USDA Cereal Disease Lab at the U, including a new partnership focused on industrial hemp for the University of Minnesota. A strong farm bill must accelerate ag research. It should help farmers tackle not only the challenges they face now, but what's going to come in years to come. The farm bill must stand up for the people who keep this industry going, farmers and farm workers. That means better health care, child care, mental health resources. Farming's a tough job. No one should ever feel alone. Everyone should be able to reach out for help. Farm Aid has been such a leader on this issue, even operating a hotline for farmers in crisis. This work is saving lives, and a strong farm bill will strengthen resources for farmers in stress. We all know there are food and farm workers who are living and working in fear because of immigration enforcement that is just across the board. These workers are impacted by what's happened on the farm and in processing facilities, so USDA must do a better job at prioritizing the needs of these workers. And while I can't do this in the Farm Bill, Congress must finally pass comprehensive immigration reform that provides these workers as well as our farmers with certainty. Immigrants don't diminish America, they are America. Ensuring our farmers and farm workers are taken care of is critical to the long-term viability of farming. So I want to get a bipartisan Farm Bill done. And what do we do to help people in the rural areas? I look at everything and say, does this help farmers and rural communities? When the answer is no. When something's going to hurt them, I'm going to stand up and call them out, including standing up when I believe actions will hurt family farmers. One example, I'm a strong supporter of investments in local food programs. By purchasing fresh food and meat from small and mid-sized farmers, these programs help support supply chains. It's one of the reasons the farmers' unions have supported these meat processing facilities that are small, including one I recently visited that is tribal work. I was frustrated to see the administration cancel the widely popular local food for schools and local food purchase assistant cooperative agreement programs earlier this year. I know many producers here today likely participate in these grants. Senator Adam Schiff of California and I directly called on the administration to reverse this decision. Instead of tearing markets down, we need to be investing in building diversified markets to strengthen farmers' bottom line. And this is just one example of efforts from the administration to undermine popular programs. Earlier this year, USDA canceled programs helping underserved farmers improve access to land and credit. Helping farmers, beginning farmers, farmers of color who've often been left behind, is good for our rural communities. To protect American agriculture's competitive edge, we also need a strong USDA. I support making strong, smart choices about improving the department, but that's not what we've been seeing. They've charged forward with haphazard firings of public service, office closures, funding freezes, and proposals to undermine significant parts of the agency. The most egregious example we've seen has come from their trade policy. More than 20% of U.S. ag production and more than 1/3 of Minnesota's ag production is typically sold to customers abroad. That's a good thing. Unfortunately, the uncertain situation created by the president's haphazard tariff agenda is increasing costs, putting markets at risk. We should improve trade deals for our partners. We can do that in trade negotiations, like we should have better dairy market access with Canada. But these tariffs, they aren't targeted. They're wide-reaching and reckless. The president has now changed his tariffs about 100 times. It is impossible for any farm, business, or family or trading partners to make any plans about harvesting or any plans about planting. The impacts of these tariffs aren't just temporary. They're going to permanently shift market share to our competitors in Brazil and Argentina after our farmers have spent decades building relationship. 14 senators, 7 Republicans, 7 Dems, I'm one of them, have introduced a bill to reassert Congress's authority to set tariffs. The Republicans should stop rubber stamping this precedent and join us and stand up for our power to set the tariffs. Before I go, I want to touch on an issue that I know that you're passionate about. That is competition. We all know that it is not good for farmers when 3 tractor manufacturers control 90% of the market and stop farmers from repairing their own tractors, or when 4 companies control 75% of the soybean market, or when just 2 companies control 80% of the corn seed market. I introduced legislation to bring our antitrust laws into the 21st century by stopping harmful consolidation, strengthening enforcement, and making sure our laws are as sophisticated as the monopolists they're trying to rein in. So I wish I could have seen you today. The only reason I'm here on this video is because we had votes and we are standing our ground on a number of things that are really important to rural America when it comes to health care. I couldn't miss that as much as I wanted to see you. But hopefully I will be there on Saturday to discuss things, to see old friends and new, and of course the music. What a lineup. You're going to have a great time this weekend. Thanks, everyone.